Hello and welcome to this session on Unveiling Mahara 26.04. Everything that is new about Mahara, the very latest version that we released last week on the 30th of April, 2026. My name is Kristina Hoeppner and I'm the project lead for Mahara. And the project is situated at Catalyst IT in Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. So it's really good to see many of you here in the session today. And I'm excited to be sharing what is new, what you can expect once you have Mahara 26.04 also on your own site. So if you're looking at our roadmap, which you would have probably seen since last year when we published the new version, is that everything on the left-hand side in the done section is what we had done up to Mahara 2504. And everything now here in this light area is what we had said we were going to work on of the big ticket items for Mahara 26.04 and potentially also a bit beyond. There have been a number of additional features that have gone into Mahara that we had not put onto the roadmap because either they were features commissioned while we were working on Mahara 26.04 or community members also contributed some features. So there's more in Mahara 2604 than what you can see here on the roadmap. The roadmap is really kind of more of the bigger items that we put into Mahara. So let's take a look what we have done of these items. So the first thing, of course, is the implementation of the usability changes and implementing the new portfolio look. So those two items, while we had separated them in the roadmap, they kind of really go hand in hand. And that is certainly the biggest project we had worked on for this release in order to bring you this new look with improved usability, improved accessibility, in order to also give us a new baseline from where to move up from. We also combined all the journal blocks, and I am going to show you all of these things once we get to the demo part, so I'm only going through this here a bit quickly. So we combined all the 4 journal blocks into one, making it easier to, making it less of a cognitive overload to decide upfront what you want to put, how you want to put a journal onto the page, and then also be more flexible actually in changing the configuration of the section around. We've also done group submissions, and that is group submissions into Moodle. That is where that functionality is currently supported. And very soon, the Mahara assignment submission plugin for Moodle that is needed to allow for this functionality will also be made available in the Moodle plugin database. We are currently going through the last stages of the peer review. We've also implemented experimentally the recording of audio and video from within a block. That was a contributed functionality that we've then made some changes to so that it doesn't just work in comments, but also in any part of Mahara where you see the visual editor. It is an experimental feature because it doesn't quite work in all the browsers due to browser limitations. And we also want to get specific feedback from you on that functionality to see how it helps your learners reflect maybe a bit more in the moment. There are a few items on the roadmap that we have not quite finished yet. And so they will be in the next area, so what we are going to put into 2704. It's just that some of the features then did turn out to be bigger, and also due to the amount of work that needed to go into the redesign, we needed to juggle things a bit. So we are still working on putting one page in multiple collections. The functionality is almost there. It's mainly going through all the many different test scenarios. And so if you're interested in that functionality and want to help test that, please do let me know. We are always happy to have some more testers on it because everybody's also coming from a different perspective and therefore might also be testing a few things differently. We are also still working on the full data references in JSON format. So that is something for data privacy and to be compliant with the GDPR and give an organization the references to the content that somebody has in Mahara in one file, essentially, so that it's easy for them to see where in the different areas of Mahara their content is. And the WCAG compliance is an ongoing project. We have made some more strides for Mahara 26.04, especially in the area of cognition. So reducing cognitive overload, reducing the number of different interfaces. And there is still ongoing work to do from our end in order to eventually get to the point where we can go for certification. So those were kind of the big items now for Mahara 26.04 that we had worked on, that we had started. And then, of course, we also had a number of other smaller new features that we implemented that are also very useful to take a look at. And so all of that has been made possible through your support because every active subscriber to the Mahara project contributed to the upkeep of Mahara and also to the creation of these new features, because your subscription fees support our team in being able to work on those things. And we've also had a number of organizations that contributed beyond their subscription to the project, either by commissioning new features or also bug fixes so that they get done quicker because they needed to have them faster, or also by contributing features themselves or updates. So, for example, University of Bath and also Tartu University or University of Tartu have contributed updates, small features, and also, in the case of University of Tartu, also security updates and upgrades to the visual editor, which have enabled us to push a number of those changes through faster. So thank you so much to everybody who has contributed either financially to this version of Mahara or also by providing code, by making translations, and by providing ideas and doing testing. So thank you so much, everybody. I had already mentioned that our biggest project in this release was the usability improvements and the new look of Mahara. So that was really the focus of our release. And our developer, Doris Tem, led that project. And together with Yvonne Cheng, who is our graphic designer, they implemented that along also with the support of the other developers. The changes were based on the community consultation that our business analyst Rob Hill had conducted primarily in 2024, where he had conversations with community members and then also did an information architecture review, which now gave us that baseline that we are starting out from, which I can now show you. And so we'll jump right into these new features and also the new look in particular, because why should I only talk to you about them? It's best if I demonstrate them to you. So one of the vital areas of the new look was for us to make sure that Mahara becomes consistent again, because over the years we've experimented, we've implemented new ways of interacting with Mahara online. And now Rob had taken a very close look and looked also at how other softwares that people are, or other online applications that people are using these days, how they are structured in order to also bring more familiarity to Mahara. And so that's why what you can now see in Mahara itself, and if you don't yet have it on your developer or on a testing instance for yourself, you're very welcome to use our developer instance. And you can find the information for that in the shared notes if you want to take a look at it. And so if you now look at all the things in Mahara, we have the different areas in Mahara. They are structured very similarly. So you have a table where the most important information is on the left. So typically the title, in this case, the title of the portfolios. Then you have additional information like description, or in this case, pages, update dates. And then on the right-hand side, you always have your actions. In this case, because there's quite a few actions, we did have we created that as a drop-down menu rather than only icons, so that it's easier to click on the elements and also to know immediately more what the icons stand for. So if we now go to Shared by Me, you also see again a table, and then in this case, very explicit actions also on the right-hand side. If we are going to share it with me, we have a table again with the title and then all the additional information. And everything is also responsive, so that if we were to make the page smaller, let me just go out of this mode. So if we were to make the page smaller, then the content decreases as well, but your scrolling direction is only one direction. So you're still only scrolling vertically instead of also horizontally. So that is also an important accessibility requirement to make that easier. So on a mobile device, all the different table elements are easily accessible by selecting the little drop-down arrow and then having all the information available. On this page now, because it is quite long, you also see one of the new smaller features that we have, and that is the back to top button, making that now easier to go back where you need it to be. And so if you're going through any of the other areas in Mahara, they are structured very similarly, so that you do not need to reorient yourself every time you're in a different section in Mahara, making that also easier, because then you only have to learn one concept of navigating the different areas in Mahara and can apply that to others as well. Now, what you would have already seen is that I was navigating the main menu on the left-hand side. So we have gone away from putting everything in the top right-hand corner by a menu and then putting that into categories, but looked at, well, what are the most important areas that somebody would need on a regular basis, and we pulled those out into the main menu. We then also have the reusable content available. Those are the artifacts that you can put onto multiple pages to have them available easily as well. If you only want to see icons and have more space for the rest, you can collapse that menu and only see the icons, or you can leave the menu open. Now, all the other things that are not as important or frequently used are in your accounts menu in the top right, where you find your personalization options and also the importing and exporting of content, as well as your regular settings. So we've consolidated those things quite a bit to make navigating Mahara easier. Now, if you're going into one of our into the portfolio area, because that, of course, is the main part that you will be using, you see the table. And also around Mahara, you now see more of these badges. So in this case, this portfolio has been shared. And when you hover over the badge, when you are on a computer, then you can see directly with whom that portfolio has been shared. So very quickly, without needing to go into Shared by Me specifically. We've pulled those out into these badges because they allow us then to also have an icon, a color, and also text without making it overwhelmingly big on screen. So again, also looking at accessibility for that, double or in this case even triple encoding the information so that it is easily available. Here I have also submitted portfolios, and you can see we changed the colors around to make them stand out a bit more rather than having them in pale yellow and pale green, so that we have the information more quickly available to you, easily perceivable, and then you know directly what this specific portfolio is about and how it differs from others. Now let's take a look at a collection. You can select the link for the collection, or if you want to go into a specific page, you can do that directly from the Pages drop-down menu like you could do in the past. So if you're now in a collection, you see that the collection navigation is now also on the left, and it is always visible. So if you wanted more space, you can collapse the main navigation. And so now you can very quickly jump between the portfolio pages. And also when you go into edit mode, the navigation of the collection stays so that you can directly jump from one page in edit mode to another page in edit mode. So this is really, really great to reduce the number of clicks that you needed to do in order to do that in past versions of Mahara. Now, if you look closely, you also see at the bottom that there's an add a page link. So once you have a collection available, you can select add a page from within another page when it is in edit mode and directly add this page to this collection at the bottom. Then, of course, you can still rearrange the pages in the Manage Pages screen as usual, but the adding of new pages, of empty pages, has been made easier. The page editing itself is still very familiar because you can select the plus icon at the top right-hand corner and top right-hand side in the Edit Actions toolbar and place it onto your page. And then you can select the section type or the content type that you want to put onto the page as a section. So we've changed the language around a bit in Mahara. We've had feedback that the term block, put a block onto a page, was not familiar to a lot of people, and it was felt that it was too technical, and therefore we renamed the blocks to sections in order to make that easier to achieve more of a plain English language. And so we have content types, and then we have these sections that hold these content types. So now I can select any of my content types that I like. And I had already mentioned earlier that we combined all the journal content types. And as you can see now, there is only one available. And this is really neat because you can then, once you put that section onto a page, you can then just change the configuration at any point in time. Therefore, you do not need to delete a section first and then put a new one in when you decide not to display only specific entries, but an entire journal. But you can do that directly from within the section configuration. And you can put that onto the page and you are done. Now we've also consolidated the text and notes sections. And in this case, what you see here on the right-hand side is that we also pulled out the first 4 content types that you see under content types here. So PDF, text, external media, and images, in this case, how this site is configured, and have them available directly on the right. So that is pretty neat because we assume that a site administrator has configured the site so that the most important and most frequently used content types are the ones that are always displayed first. And so now you have them readily available directly on the right. And so if I pull my text section across, there's now only one. So we do not distinguish anymore between text and notes, because in recent years, actually, the simple text section has received more new features like the instructions, quick edit, draft, and backups. And so the notes were missing quite a bit. And so what we've done is we combined them. So now when you create a text section, you have all of these features available in one and don't have to think about whether to put a text or a note onto a page anymore. What we have not retained is that you can repurpose a note in another section in another page by selecting it. That was functionality that we had received feedback on of being quite complicated and people mucking things up typically more than it was useful because they forgot that the text, when they changed it in one area, was also changed in another, despite there being an alert in the configuration here. And so, because what we had seen on sites is that the text section was used more than the notes these days, is that we did not retain that functionality because it is also quite easy to put a text section onto another page by giving it a tag and then using the create via tags functionality on the page to add that content over. So now you have the text section just in one available. Since we are directly here in the text section, let me show you a few other things that are new and that are quite exciting and also improve the look of Mahara and also your pages. So one thing is that now in the visual editor, you can add collapsibles in the text yourself. So what does that mean? So here we have, if you're opening the kitchen sink in the editor by selecting the toggle toolbars icon, you can add an accordion. And so what that allows us to do is that we can create kind of like options for things that should be collapsed and where you might want to differentiate between different options for people. Now, as you can see, it is quite difficult to get out of this accordion now. So the best thing is always to make sure that you actually have an empty line below it. So in this case, I had to go into the HTML in order to do that. But if you wanted to add another accordion, then best just put some empty lines in as placeholders that you can then always remove and then put another accordion in. So I really like this functionality because it allows us now to make lots of details available, say here, for example, in a set of instructions, but also hide those details quite nicely and not have them always displayed. So you can use that, for example, if you create a template that should be used by different groups of people with different requirements, but the structure of the template is still pretty much the same, that you then use the accordions to say, okay, if you're going for level 1, you need to display items 1, 2, 3 and need to include those. Whereas if you go for level 2, then you have this set of criteria. so that you don't have to create multiple templates that only differ very slightly, but can have everything in one if you wanted to. And the accordion can be used anywhere, wherever you see the visual editor. So it is not confined to the instructions or just a text section. You can also use it in a journal entry, in a forum post, wherever you see it. It's entirely up to you. The other item that I wanted to show you in the text editor, I just need to go into a different site where I'm online, is that you can now record audio and also video directly from within a text area. So from within text. So here you see I've already made a couple of small recordings. So if I now pull my text over again, my text section, I have an insert audio and insert video icon available in the text. And now I can record my audio. So it's very simple. Just hit the button and start recording. You might be asked which microphone you want to use, especially if you have a couple in use on your computer. If you allow that, in this case, I'm making an audio recording, and you see that it is recording because the amplitude works. You also see how much time you have left for how long you can make a recording. In this case, I allowed 5 minutes. And that way you can see for how long you can record when you might want to wrap things up. Be mindful, videos, of course, are much larger than audio. And therefore, it's probably best if the recordings are fairly short, especially if your learners do not have a lot of space available in their storage in their files area. Because anything that you record in here will be saved as a file in Mahara. Now, depending on your browser, you might preview or listen to your recording and then decide whether to keep it or record again. That doesn't always work in all browsers, so that's one of the browser limitations. You can record again, or you can add the recording into your text. And once you do that, it is also saved to your files area. Then you have the link to the recording available, and you also have the player. So if it is an audio recording, you only see the small player. If it is a video recording, you will see the video. And so all of that is then directly embedded into the text that you can use. And so this is a very cool experimental feature that I'd love to hear from you, how you're using it, whether it also helps your students reflect more in the moment. And so not just as part of writing it or needing to record things on their phone or on their computer and then uploading the file. But I'd be very much interested in hearing from you and learning from you whether that encourages more immediate recording, more immediate reflections. So those were the features that we have implemented for the text sections, merging of text sections, and now I think I am going to come to a number of other features. And one I can show you also on this page here. Let's just save this section. So if you go into display mode, we used to have the quick edit mode available that then also triggered comments and details. And so we've separated those to make it clearer when you to separate the actions, really, because it is very different things. So everybody will have comments available and details in order to see the details of images or videos and comment on those. And quick edit is available on a number of sections. So that would be text, files, PDF, and also CPD. And quick edit allows you to stay in display mode, but edit the specific sections. So this is pretty neat when you work with templates and your learners only need to put in the text or upload some PDFs and the like, and they don't have to go into the full edit mode where they could accidentally rearrange sections or in some cases also delete things, therefore kind of reducing a number of the potential support requests because all they can do is update the text on a particular section. So that is something that we've already had in Mahara for a while now. But what we've done now for 26.04 is separate those two actions so that when you have the comments allowed, you can then make comments and also see the details, or you only work with quick edit. And of course, quick edit is only available to portfolio authors. So somebody only viewing a page would not have access to that. Let's now take a look at a number of administrative features that are also pretty cool. And for that, we'll go into the site administration. And there we have the possibility to merge accounts. This is, I find in particular of interest to organizations that have had a Mahara site for a long time, might have also switched between authentication methods, so started out with internal, then had Moodle in the play, Mnet, then turned on single sign-on and also connected to LTI. And at some point, probably a few people ended up with 2 accounts. And so what you needed to do in the past is to go to that student or staff member and ask, hey, which account do you want to keep? And what of the other account do you want to keep? Then needed to export that content and import it back into Mahara. It is quite an extensive workflow process with multiple steps, which we have now reduced to essentially just one step consisting of 3 sub-steps. And that is functionality that was commissioned by one of our clients here in New Zealand, who unfortunately had to go through that process a lot, since they are on a multi-tenanted site where there is quite a bit of movement of people between institutions, and they do not necessarily always let the administrator know when they are changing an institution in order for their account then to be moved. And that's why they end up with dual accounts. So what you can now do is you select the account that you essentially want to get rid of. And you can see details, vital details about this account to really also ensure that it is the correct account that you want to delete. Then you select the account that should be taking this person in, so that should receive all that content. And you can decide whether you want to delete the account from which you're removing all content or whether you want to keep it. So you can essentially empty an account but leave it there. Typically, I would assume that the account would be deleted because that's usually why you make the merger. But we wanted to give the option. And then you can merge the accounts. And so what's happening on the back end is that the content from that first person, in this case James, is being changed to be the ID of Paula, so that we are moving the content internally. We are associating a different ID with the content and therefore do not need to go into export and import. But for that, it is really important that you select the correct person to merge your account, because then that original account is owned by the person into whose account all that information is merged. But in general, very cool functionality, I find. Now, we've also had a community contribution for SmartEvidence. And so it is for SmartEvidence 1, where you can use the online editor. And so in the past, when your SmartEvidence framework, so let's say, for example, the Practicing Teacher Criteria New Zealand 1, has been used in collections, you were not able to make any changes to it. You always needed to set up a new framework. However, this was now changed. So you can edit an existing framework that is currently in use. You do get a warning at the top telling you, be careful, because of course, if you make substantial changes, you might still want to consider setting up a new framework so that assessment criteria and such are not changed mid-course. But if it is something like explanatory notes or spelling mistakes and things like that, or smaller changes, then it is very worthwhile making those directly rather than needing to require everybody to use a new framework, maybe do their annotations again and things like that. So it's very nice to do that. Additionally, now SmartEvidence is also available to institution administrators. So when they set up a SmartEvidence framework or import a framework, they can do that for their institution. And so that is really neat, because that way they rely less on the site administrator and can be more self-sufficient. So 2 nice new functionalities in that area. Now, there are a few more new features that we have in Mahara 26.04. And you can see all of them in our GitLab instance, along with descriptions and details if you have access to GitLab. So the link is also in the shared notes. And I also have the new features in the manual. There's still a few more screenshots to update and things like that. But the biggest new features are there, along also with the highlights reel. One of the new features that I haven't demonstrated to you today, and I will make a demo video later on, is the group portfolio submission into Moodle. So for that, I'm awaiting the peer review of the plugin so that we can then install it on our Moodle site. And what it does is that when you have a course in Moodle and you've set up student groups within it, or groupings, groups for those groupings will be created in Mahara automatically. Students are being put into those. They can work on their portfolio collaboratively. And then one of the students can submit that group portfolio into Moodle. So in the past, what you needed to do is that when you worked collaboratively on a portfolio in a group, one student needed to copy that portfolio into their personal account and then submit that into Moodle when in Moodle group submissions were enabled. So that, of course, is quite a bit of a workaround and the extra steps. And now, thanks to funding from Dublin City University, that could be changed, and we look forward to making that updated Mahara assignment submission plugin available to you very soon, so that you can also give that functionality a go. And as I said, we will have a demo of that once we have it all available in the plugin directory, so that you know you're good to go. So this functionality was implemented by our colleagues in our UK office, Catalyst IT Europe, and we had it on our roadmap. And then Dublin City University said, yep, we would very much like to have that feature and are going to sponsor it. So thanks a lot to DCU. And also, once again, thank you so much to everybody else who has contributed to this release. Now, it really is over to you to give it a go, I think. And if you have to wait a little bit longer to have Mahara 26.04 on your side, do go to our developer instance dev.mahara.org to register and then give it a go. And check out some of those features, and then you can also hopefully install it on your side very soon. If you want to chat with us, give us feedback, or learn more about these new features and maybe also some more scenarios of how you can use them, come along to our events. We do have a Mahara Ask Me Anything session set up for next week that is geared more towards Europe, Africa, and also Asia. And we have another one set up in June, so they are always monthly. And that will be more for Oceania, so New Zealand, Australia, and the islands. So come along to any of our events in order to chat with other community members and also look more deeply into Mahara. If you have questions on how to use things or also want to give us feedback, please do use our support forums. And we'd love to hear from you and how you make use of Mahara, what you like about the new features, how you're using them, and therefore also give us feedback on them. And so we know what direction we might want to explore further for certain functionalities. Now, if you had read my preview announcement for Mahara 26.04, which coincided with Easter, you would have seen that I had said that we have an Easter egg in Mahara that is hidden there. So we did have a couple of people who found it, and one person even found a second one. So that second one actually is now a full-fledged feature in Mahara. It was the add a page from within a collection functionality that we had initially not quite thought of being able to put into 2604 because there were still a few more things to be done. But then we could still squeeze it in. But the one Easter egg that we had asked you to find, if you were able to, was the following that I'm going to demonstrate to you now. And you can also try it out directly on dev.mahara.org if you like, as well as your own Mahara 26.04 instance once you have it. Because we left the Easter egg in, because I think it is one that is worthwhile keeping and pulling out on demand. So Mahara 26.04 is pretty awesome, isn't it? So it is worthwhile celebrating. And so we can do that by having our own confetti in Mahara. So getting through Mahara 2604 and changing everything to the new look, pretty much touching every single CSS rule, every single template, also looking at improving logic in Mahara was a lot of work. And so Torres and Ivan needed something to keep them a bit motivated at times, and that's when they put confetti into Mahara. So how can you trigger it yourself? Well, it is actually just a keyboard combination, and I'm going to post it into the chat for you. And so what you need is to just be on the Mahara page, Mahara 2604 page, doesn't really matter which one you're on. And so just make sure that you click into the page to have your window activated. And then you use your arrow keys on the keyboard. You press the up arrow twice, the down arrow twice, left, right, left, right, and then the letters MA. And then you will be seeing confetti. So up, up, down, down, left, right, MA. That's pretty cool, isn't it? If you have a custom theme, you can even change the colors. So look for the functionality in the code just by searching for Easter or Easter egg, and you will find a small JavaScript file where you can make the adjustments. So hopefully that is also something that your site administrator is then willing to do, so that you can pull it out when you do training on Mahara and want to celebrate a portfolio or anything else. So it's a pretty neat thing. But that's it for me today. On the highlights of Mahara 26.04, in particular focusing on the new look and feel that has come with a ton of usability improvements, also getting us better in areas of accessibility where we were still behind a bit, especially when it comes down to the responsiveness of tables and having a better table layout that is only scrollable in one direction. And also in regards to making sure that neurodiverse learners, as well as those with cognitive requirements, have aids on hand in order to navigate Mahara more easily, thanks to a more consistent design that we have gone back to. And now we can look into building up from there and keeping the consistency, and also in the future releases look more into portfolio features again, because this release was quite a bit focused on just implementing the new look, because we knew that it was going to be a massive project. But we could also thankfully put in a number of new features that enhance the experience as well, in order to make things easier in the portfolio creation process in particular, but also have a number of tools available that a lot of you who are administrators in Mahara can use. So I look forward to hearing from you how your Mahara 26.04 journey goes, and hope to see you at some of our upcoming events. And now we still have a few minutes time for questions. And I look forward to hearing what your initial impressions are.